There's some now.
Matt?
Yeah, but we're already on, being recorded, so.
I see that.
We're not recording until the meeting actually starts. So we're going to start with public comment. We keep the first 10 minutes of the meeting for public comment. So Amanda, raise your hand. So Amanda, what's your comment?
Thank you. Hi. I'd like to make a comment and then ask a couple of quick questions, if that's okay. My question is about water. The water issues with the culvert started me thinking about Lotto 32 and the library project. And I remembered that OTO, O'Reilly, Talbot, and Oaken did a 2010 report where they recommended over-excavating the building's footings by 6 inches and using at least 6 inches of 3/4 inch crushed stone beneath the footings for stability. Noting that the fine sand and silt at the site are susceptible to moisture, and if wet, these soils can be easily disturbed and not easily compacted. So they suggested that proper water control is crucial. So my questions are, have these extra measures been incorporated into the estimate, the cost estimate for the library building? And also, considering the impact of climate change that's happening and will continue to cause increased precipitation in New England over the next few decades, will their recommendations be sufficient? So, thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Amanda. Does anybody else have questions or comments?
Marianne, is it possible to turn that down a bit? It's a bit loud.
Well, Brad, I think yes. Okay. Does anybody else from the public have comments or questions? Okay. And so now seeing our chair has arrived. I've been doing a very good job in her absence.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair.
I'm going to pass it over to her. So we just took public comment and so.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I apologize for being late. Okay, so after public comments, let's go into our minutes from the previous meetings. We have 2 meetings that we need to approve the minutes from. There was the June meetings, and let's see, they were, I had them on my computer, and I left my computer home too. June 20th,
Yeah, 20th.
And June.
So let's start, we have June 20th.
June 20th and July 11th. Let's do June 20th.
And
I took those minutes and I sent them to you.
right, and
I have not received any, I didn't receive any comments.
the only comment was my name was misspelled.
Yes, I know.
Yeah, I sent you names of all the people who were there. And then Lauren sent comments.
Okay.
So you know what?
Let's table those.
Okay.
Let's table
Right.
those.
Okay.
Okay, sorry, table those again.
Okay.
Okay, then the July 11th meeting, I was not present. So would someone
I'll
like?
make a motion that we approve the July 11th minutes as written.
Second. May I suggest that we say as corrected?
As corrected.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Antonella's aye.
Down the side. Foster abstained, wasn't it? Pool, aye.
Will they abstain?
James.
Okay, so you don't have any subcommittee minutes?
No.
Those are, okay, great, great. All right, so let's move on to big stuff. Matt, do you want to make a presentation?
I don't have a presentation per se, but I have a summary of the estimate, which is a comparison to the last estimate that I can go through quickly. It'll be a
Thank you.
short presentation, but
Okay.
share my screen. I'll make this a little bigger.
Is this the one that you sent us on
It is.
Saturday?
It is.
Okay. Okay.
Everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Right. So for those of you that have not yet heard, we got our estimate, revised schematic design estimate on Saturday morning from AM Fogarty. I've put together a quick summary of this most recent estimate as compared to the May 17th schematic design estimate. And I've highlighted the lines that are the most compelling, I guess. So you can see that the total went down pretty significantly from 9.7 million in May to 6.1 million today. So a total reduction of 3.6 million. So all of that hard work and design revision paid off, and we hope, about where we need to be. If we go through the line items, and I don't want to go through every one, generally speaking, almost all of the trades went down. There are a handful where it went up, and I can explain why. Some of the big ones, rough carpentry went down $419,000. That has to do with really two things. One, we reduced the size of the building, as you all know, pretty considerably. So that's one part of that reduction. The other part is that we dramatically simplified the glulam structure in this new version. The gable roof is, and the way that it's framed now is a little bit more conventional and therefore a little bit cheaper. So we were able to realize some pretty significant savings there. Aluminum windows and doors. This bears out what we had predicted, which is by reducing not only the building size, but also the wall area and window area. You know, going from a monopitch roof to a gable roof meant that we had, I can't remember what percentage, like maybe a 20% reduction in glazing area. And so that glazing area translates to cost. So we saved $180,000 there. A couple other ones to point out. Fire suppression, as you all know, the whole motivation to reduce the size of the building was to get it below the 5,000 square foot threshold that triggers an automatic fire suppression system for an assembly occupancy building. We were able to do that, and so we saved $400,000 in fire suppression system. Now that savings from the fire suppression system is actually, it goes beyond that $400,000. There's cost buried in electrical, which is the next one that I've highlighted. Sorry for the typo here. Electrical went down $351,000. A big chunk of that, I'm sure, is from elimination of the fire protection system, because we no longer have a fire pump. We no longer have a generator and an automatic transfer switch and all the things that went along with powering that sprinkler system. Earthwork number went down over $100,000. And when you look at that in combination with the earthwork, the paving, curbing, and edging number, which went down $98,000, site improvements went down $82,000, landscaping $200,000, and utilities $435,000. Those combined items are a function of moving the building 100 feet closer to Leverett Road, reducing the amount of disturbed area, and deleting the fire protection. So that utility savings is partly that, but it's also partly reducing the length of the electrical duct bank, primary and secondary electrical duct banks, which are 100 feet shorter now than they were. And those are costly items. So all told, that was a direct cost savings of 2.6 million. By the time you add all the markups onto that, we're at a savings of 3.6 million. So that's how we've gotten down to 6.1. So any questions about any of this?
I have a question.
Penny?
Where's the solar?
Solar is in the electrical number.
Okay, thank you.
And how much is the solar now?
That is a good question, and I have to look it up because I don't remember.
180,000, Matt.
180. Okay.
Right, 3,000. It's 60 kV, 3,000 a kV. I think it's 180,000 plus markups. Just checking it now.
And we went down in the estimated energy consumption for the building now, I think, is around 45 kilowatt hours per year, if I remember correctly. And so the energy consumption is less than the total yield, the total anticipated yield of the PV system as currently estimated. And that the size of that PV system, as we understand it from our consultant, takes into account some loss, for winter, for cloudy days, for dirt accumulation, things like that. So we may find in the end that we're able to reduce slightly the size of the PV array as we get a little closer, as we dig into this a little bit more in terms of specifics, we get a better handle on what our predicted energy usage is for the building, and we get more detail on the PV system. We might find that there's some potential further savings there as we try to bring those numbers closer together. I would probably recommend, and I'd be curious what our solar consultant thinks, but I would probably recommend slightly oversizing the PV array so that we make sure that we're hitting that total consumption number every year.
Matt, just to confirm, we have a 60 kW system in the estimate. It's $2,900 per kW for 174,000 plus 30% for the markups. So 30% of 17 is what, another 50,000, 55,000 plus or minus in indirects. So it's about 225 grand, round numbers.
Yeah, and I think the previous was 375, if I remember correctly. Either 350 or 375. So it's gotten smaller, so it's gotten cheaper. I think the previous estimate was based on 100 kilowatt hour per year system.
I have a couple of questions about, all right, you go ahead with yours.
Can you explain why the outside walls are the 2x12? I thought we were 2x8s before.
Yeah, so originally we had 2x8s in the exterior walls. Part of that was because the exterior walls on the monopitch roof scheme got tall at one end, and so we needed a certain depth just to get the stiffness we needed out of that wall, and so it was just simpler to use the same stud depth the whole way through. That was when the wall was really only supporting its own weight and the weight of whatever exterior cladding was on it, and some wind loading. Now the exterior walls are fully load bearing, right? We got rid of all the columns that were supporting the roof, and we're transferring all that load now to the exterior walls. Frankly, I was surprised to see 2x12 studs for that wall, and also I don't know if you noticed, but the foundation is also then correspondingly thicker. And so that's something we're going to be digging into a little bit with our structural engineer in the next phase. But I think that's why, we might want to look at whether or not it makes sense to use LSLs instead of 2x12 conventional lumber. There's a price difference there, but using a shallower stud means that we will pick up a few inches, which over the you know, the footprint of the building will start to add up in terms of.
I was also wondering if part of the driving the 2x12 is the height of the walls.
Sorry, say that again, Jeff.
Is part of what driving the need for a 2x12 is the height of the wall?
I don't think so, because the height of the wall is, with the exception of the gable ends, is lower than it was in the previous design. And we had 2x8s in the previous design. I think it's because they are load bearing now instead of non-load bearing exterior walls as they were previously.
And then if we're a 2x12 wall, how are you going to insulate it?
So we had an exchange with Stephen about this. We typically do a split between rigid insulation outboard of the sheathing and a little bit of fiberglass batt inside the cavity. And the reason we do that is for cost. Batt insulation is cheaper than rigid insulation. The best thing to do, if money is no object, is to do all of your insulation outboard of the sheathing. The air barrier, which we're required to provide by Mass Energy Code, actually doubles as a vapor barrier as well. So it's an air vapor barrier. It's actually air, moisture, and vapor barrier all in one. So it's as opposed to the way, you know, wall construction used to be, where you would do a water membrane on the exterior, insulation in the cavity, and then a poly vapor barrier on the inside face of your exterior wall. But what happens in that assembly is that you potentially trap moisture. That poly barrier is never airtight or vapor tight, right? It's got staples all over it. It gets torn during construction and punctured. So vapor gets through it, and that vapor gets trapped in between those two layers. And so there's been an industry shift to a single layer. But when you do that, you have to balance where the dew point is. The dew point has to happen outside of that layer, the exterior of the building, not the interior. And so you have to carefully balance the amount of insulation you have outside the wall versus in the cavity. And so typically, if we're going to do a mix of rigid and batt, we do 1.5 inches of rigid on the exterior, and we do 3.5 inches of fiberglass batts on the inside. So we're not filling the cavity, even though we've got 12 inches. And I know the sort of initial reaction is, well, why don't we just fill that whole cavity with insulation? But it won't perform as well. It may increase the thermal performance, but it's not going to perform as well in terms of air and moisture management.
And then
long-winded answer, but hopefully that answered your question.
I can answer it, but is the biggest load on this building through the envelope, or is it ventilation?
Sorry, I'm having a hard time hearing. Is the biggest load through the envelope?
Through the envelope or ventilation?
I don't know, actually.
Okay, can you find out from your energy?
Yep.
When you say biggest load, you're talking about energy load or?
Well, peak energy loss.
Okay.
Is that all your questions, Jim?
I don't know.
Okay, all right, Mary Ann.
Okay, so can I ask about soil removal on page 18? So I see 30, 60, 90. I see more than $200,000 in soil removal. And in 3 different places, but all on that page. So
I didn't hear what page you're on, Marianne.
Oh, page 18. So Dale and Jeff and Penny. So can we just, so I'm assuming that means we load soil into trucks and drive it away someplace. So we're paying somebody to drive the soil away, and then we're paying a disposal fee. And so what I want to know is, can we just drive the soil back on Auto 32 beyond the wetlands and spread it there?
Oh,
Why?
because there's vegetation in that area that you're gonna have to completely remove to be able to do that. And that's gonna create lots of problems by itself.
Okay.
And actually, that's what Gary Building did next door. And that's why you see all those piles of dirt that have trees in them. I think that when Pillow Road was done, they had all of that fill that they didn't have anything to do with. And he brought it home, put it in his backyard with the idea that he was going to do something, and there you see it. And we would be inviting sort of the same thing.
Okay.
So just to understand, you're talking about taking the soil away and then bringing the soil back.
Oh, I'm not talking about
That's what.
No. They're talking about remove, sort of like what happened at the fire station. It's taken away, period, trucked away, never to be, does not return.
Why?
Well, because it's contaminated.
No, it's not.
So this is just extra stuff.
The reason we're disposing some of the fill is because we're putting something back in its place, right? We're digging a hole in the ground and we're filling it with concrete foundation. So that area of concrete foundation used to be soil. That soil has to go someplace. And so there's the trench will be big. They'll do the form work. They'll pour the concrete. They'll strip the formwork, they'll backfill, right? So they'll put some dirt back in the hole, but not as much dirt goes back into the hole as was taken out. And so there's a surplus of soil that needs to be dealt with.
Given the time, we can find a home for it.
You think we can find a home for it?
I think we can find a home for it.
Okay.
But that doesn't have that number by the law.
Okay.
That's just the disposal, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's.
Oh, you're just taking the stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But some of that soil is gonna go on top of the septic system.
Right.
It's not all of it.
Right. Right. Okay. It just seems like a lot of money
Yeah, we know somebody in town that's probably.
for moving. Oh, we do.
Dennis,
You'll talk to Dennis, won't you? Okay. All right. All right. So anyway, we'll talk.
Can I just interject that we have to be very careful about who does the work on a public project, and volunteers doing work is not going to fly.
Right. No, he wouldn't do the work. We would just dispose. We would just give him the dirt instead of paying a disposal fee. So, and it's right here in town if he wants it. So instead of trucking it to Springfield,
Okay.
But anyway, we're going to talk to him. But he wouldn't do the work. We would still do the work. It just wouldn't go as far. And we wouldn't pay the fee. Okay. Okay. Then I guess I want to have. So here's what I think we need to do. I think we need to go through the estimate, agree on all the things we're keeping and the things we're not keeping, and then the alternates, right? Which kind of siding are we using? Which kind of flooring are we using?
Right.
And then we need to go through and agree on which are eligible and which are ineligible costs. And then we need to determine so actually we need to determine the total cost. So all these things have to be done at the same time. And then figure out what the grant amount is and what's the town's responsibility.
Mary Ann, do you want me to walk you through the budget?
Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
That would be great.
I think we gotta do the budget first. That's the decision.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, so you're already a co-host, Neil, if you want to share that budget.
Yep. Can you guys see that?
Yes, could you make
I
it?
apologize. I'll scroll it. I'll make it bigger if you want, or I'll try to make it all on one page, but I can't do both.
Bigger.
Okay, hold on. Big enough?
No.
No.
Almost,
Hold on.
yeah.
150.
Too big. Hold
There
on.
you go. Okay.
Well,
You lost it.
How's that?
Perfect.
That's great.
Okay,
And you can get rid of thumbnails. Yep.
so
Excellent.
I'm calling this our sort of our update zero estimate, if you will, as it's sort of establishing our project budget. The numbers are very consistent with what we showed you back in February. OPM fee, $330,000. A&E fee, $915,000. That does include the schematic redesign estimate from Matt and his firm. Third party commissioning budgeted at $60,000. Construction estimate, $6.15 million based on the estimate that Matt just rolled us through. Estimated project expenses of $200,000 in addition to that for items such as construction testing, utility company back charges, moving expenses, etc. FF&E, we gave the we did the original estimate based on the numbers the town had given us for $125,000 for a partially new furniture and equipment, $115,000 for technology, that is computers and network equipment, and $75,000 in outside services. That was security, an exterior sign, and some other miscellaneous expenses, about $315,000 worth. We maintain contingency for construction at 6% of the estimated construction cost and 5% for the remaining soft costs. And the budget came in about $100,000 less than what we showed you in February at just under 8.5 million.
I have a question.
Yep.
Construction contingency, is that what I would normally call change order contingency?
Yes.
And then in the budget, in the estimate, they have a 10% design contingency.
That you should expect that the design contingency, as the design evolves, is going to roll up into the direct construction cost. So exactly. you should view the design and pricing contingency as things that are not yet shown on the documents, but are included in the scope of the project.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Exactly. And do you think with a brand new building, construction contingency of 6% is correct, as opposed to 5%? Just a question.
I'd love to see it at 1%. I'm sure Matt would as well, but I think anywhere 5 to 6% is appropriate for what we're trying to do.
Okay, let's start with 6 at the moment. All right.
So that brings us to a total project budget of just shy of 8.5 million. If you start to pare that down and start looking at the ineligible costs. Thank you, Lauren, by the way, for the 11th hour consultation. It was much appreciated. There are select items in the electrical scope of work. The site lighting fixtures are ineligible. I put this in as a CYA for my own self. If we determine that there are any contaminated soils found, that expense would also be ineligible, but I have not put a number against it. Site improvements we've talked about before with the committee, so things like driveways, sidewalks, pavers, the stone drip strip around the perimeter of the building, gravel shoulders and stabilized dense grade parking, site seating and miscellaneous site furnishings, EV charging stations if they're required. Currently, they're not shown in the estimate. So if they're a requirement of the project, they would both be an additional cost and ineligible.
I think the new stretch code might require them. I don't know that for sure, but I think it might.
So they're required, expressed as a percentage of eligible or a percentage of parking spaces.
Mm-hmm.
For some reason, I think 20% comes to mind. So if we only have 15 spaces and 20% of that would be 1 or 2 chargers, probably not that much, but we could also just do the infrastructure and not provide the actual charging station and meet the intent of the code. So we have a little bit of flexibility there. Entrance sign, bike racks, exterior parking signs, and landscaping round out Division 32, all as an eligible cost. Under Division 33, we had site lighting bases, which are also ineligible. So a total direct cost from the estimate is $606,000, round numbers, including the GC markups, which are 30.3% of the direct cost, and an estimate for ineligible soft costs. Those are some, but not all, of the FF&E expenses. So we've estimated that at roughly half of the FF&E budget. Technology for computers and networking, as well as the outside services provided for audiovisual and IT equipment and the exterior signage. So the estimated total of ineligible expenses is just over $1 million. So we rolled some quick math just to reconfirm. Sorry, I'll make this a little bigger. Just to reconfirm, and we said that at a total project budget of 8.5 million, less the ineligible expenses that we rolled out above the 1.030, it gets you to eligible project costs just shy of 7.5 million, assuming 75% as eligible through the grant. You'd have 5.6 million of eligible expenses, which leaves the estimated town share at roughly $2.9 million.
2.9 million plus the 1 million? No.
No, inclusive of.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's definitely better. Okay, so there, can I go back to picking at the estimate?
Well, how much money have we told the
Wait a minute, what do we have right now committed from the town?
We are, so town meeting committed $2.4 million. That included 324 in privately raised funds. So 2.4, and then, so since then,
500,000.
So 2.4, yeah, 500,000. And then, wait a minute. Yes.
Can you
Okay.
say all that one more time? I'm sorry.
Okay. So town meeting
It's 2.9.
2.4.
2.4.
Right. And so we have so we definitely have $130,000 that hasn't been committed to the project. So that brings us down to 470,000.
No.
370. Well, somebody else is going to have to do the math around here. Okay. Yeah. When we're talking about numbers like this. Okay. I'm better than I am. I'm actually not all that bad. But I have it all written down. So. Oh, it's all right here. Okay. The trustees have voted to so there's a trust fund and there's $70,000, and the trustees have voted to pursue the trust fund is for the care and keeping of the Emmons Spear Memorial Library. So the Emmons Spear Memorial Library will no longer exist as a library, and the intent of the family was to provide for the library for the town of Shutesbury. So there's a process with the AG's office to change to move funds. So the trustees have voted to go through that process. So we have to go through the process, but that is potentially another $70,000. So that gets, so we've got 130 cash.
It's 200.
And then another 70, probably, that's 200. That leaves us $300,000-ish. There's 100 and we didn't write it down. Let's see. There's a page with a lot of trees.
There's a page with a lot of trees. Yes, I saw that.
Okay.
in the landscaping.
And those trees are ineligible costs, so they're all on us. Who knows what the page is with all the trees? I can't believe I don't have that written down. Maybe page 13.
I have it.
13.
Page 20?
Page 20. Oh, page 20. Oh, I got stuff on page 13 too. But not
yep, page 20.
All right. So there are sugar maple trees, paper birch, tupelo, sassafras, and then a bunch of shrubs. And I think those are all things that we can cut from the project now. And then I think as far as landscaping, we should do what needs to be done to kind of stabilize the area around the building, create ground, and then whatever needs to be done for wetland remediation, and then I think the garden club and volunteers in town really want to make this place our own like we've done with gardens in other town buildings over the course of the year. So we want to, it's kind of like if you move into a new house and you don't put all the gardens in at once. You get the feel for the place and then you put them in. So we always imagined that would be something, especially when it costs as much. So we think that I would like to propose that we eliminate that 135,000.
It's the Yankee way.
995, but I can't say that I'm the only Yankee. Like I don't get to decide. So
why are you saying just 130?
Well, because the other stuff we need
some of it, but not all of it.
Right. We need to do some wetland remediation. We want to do some, I think some of that is for the improvement of the meadow.
Yes.
Yeah, I was unclear.
Right. And so
with the meadow portion of it, how that is going to sort out.
And that would be a conversation we could have with Matt and Greg from Stimson Associates.
Mm-hmm. So you're just suggesting removing 130.
Yeah, but Jeff was raising his hand, and I want to make sure.
Yes, Jeff.
So, guys, up on the screen, my takeaway from this is knowing that this is an estimate at the end of schematics. I'm feeling we're on budget. $300,000 at this time. We will make decisions as we go through DD that probably, like the trees and stuff like that, will come out of this thing. And you've got some contingency. Are you guys feeling that way, or?
Yes.
Or just me?
Yeah.
No, that's how we feel about it. Going into this, our understanding was that we needed to hit a number of 6.3. So and I don't know where that number came from, but that was the number that we were told we needed to hit, coming down from 9.7. So we've done that. We've done better than that. I do think that there are a couple of things that we may find we want to add in, like one of the alternates was doing the cost benefit analysis of adding more insulation on the roof, going from 5 inches of rigid to 7 inches. We don't know if that makes sense or not. It's a $20,000 ad. We won't know if it makes sense until we do more thorough analysis through the energy model, because at a certain point, there's, you know, kind of diminishing return. But that we may find that it makes sense to do that. So that's $20,000 then we might want to add to the project. We also, knowing that we needed to be as aggressive as possible, we really pared back everything, including all of the interior finishes. And there's one place where I might recommend going with a slightly better finish, and that's the floor of the lobby, browsing and circulation area, which is going to be pretty high traffic. Right now it's linoleum, and I don't think linoleum is going to hold up particularly well, especially in the lobby. And so we might want to look at upgrading that to the same porcelain tile that we're using in the bathrooms, which would add somewhere in the range of $16,000 to $28,000, depending on the area that we want to look at in terms of the upgrade. So we're at 6.15 based on Neil's budget. He rounded up a little bit. I would say that we maybe round up a little further to like 6.2 or 6.25 and set that as our budget moving forward, and then authorize us to move into DD, where we can roll up our sleeves and get into the design of this thing, and then confirm that budget again at the end of DD. And where things are going to come up over the course of DD, Jeff, as you said, where we're going to make some value decisions up or down. And some of those decisions are going to have to be made after some due diligence. You know, we're going to have to do some things to evaluate the cost benefit of some of those. So
Lauren, I'd like to hear how you feel about this.
I am not an estimator. I feel like the MBLC is committed to doing 75% of eligible cost, and we will meet that figure. The question is whether the town of Shutesbury is willing to assume the rest of the project as estimated.
Neil, what's your thoughts?
I think that the town, to echo Lauren's sentiments, I think that the town needs to be 100% comfortable with two numbers: the total project budget and how that translates to the town share. And then we need to hold that budget. We should not be going over. We should not be entertaining ads to the extent that they can be identified as an alternate and elected only if budget allows on bid day. I think that's a sound way to move forward. But I think you guys need to be really direct and really clear with Matt and his team as to what the town can afford and how that translates back to a total project budget. And then we need to live with it.
So I think what I'm feeling is that we need to have a joint meeting with the select board and the finance committee to discuss this in detail. And then if we need to, we will have to have a special town meeting in the fall.
But I don't know that we do, because of what Jeff just said. I think you think we could.
I think if we control ourselves, we're not that bad off.
And so we could do this for 8.2 million if we just don't buy any maple trees.
We don't buy any maple trees. We maybe have somebody as a benefit donate purchase of the refrigerator.
Oh yeah, there's already
all those things.
Right.
We also are looking at grants. We're looking for grants everywhere. And we're looking for funding everywhere. So I think, personally, I think we can, not easily, but I think we can come up with at least 200,000.
Well, and also we've got, so the Friends of the Library have raised $110,000 in a year.
Yep.
They haven't stopped their efforts.
Right.
And I do think there are places where we can find savings in this. And I think we're going to be really, I think we're not gonna add.
I agree.
And I think these guys are further along.
Right.
At the end of schematics than I expected. I looked at those documents. And the cost estimator was able to pick up a lot of stuff. And also, don't forget, they've got over $500,000 in design contingency.
Yeah.
And I'm not convinced we're gonna spend, I hope we're not gonna spend all $539,000 of this design contingency.
Jeff, respectfully, I think you need to expect that you are going to spend that, or you need to tell Matt specifically how much of it is available for him in detailing the rest of the project.
Well, it's not just architectural, it's all of the trades, right? So
It's the whole project, Matt.
Yeah, there's a lot of undefined scope as of today. As good as a schematic set as it might be, there's a lot still that isn't on those drawings that the estimator had to extrapolate. So I would not cut the design contingency now, but I think as we move in to, further down the road, we're going to see that number get absorbed into the cost of the project, and the contingency as a percentage will go down with each estimate, and it'll go to zero at the end. We may find that the CD estimate, we've only used 75% of that design contingency by the end of CDs, but it's hard to predict.
No, I don't want to reduce any of this contingency right now, because you're right, we're gonna chip away at this.
Yeah.
I'm just hoping we're not chipping away at 100% of it. I'm hoping we chip away 75%.
Yeah.
So can we talk about the schedule? Because I want to know when the next cost estimate is. Because I think we should at the end of DD. Yeah, I think we keep going. I think we're there. I think we did it. And so when is the end of DD?
3 months after we start DD.
The cost estimate at the end of DD, or we want all the way to C? Okay.
What did you say?
Yes, we own the cost estimate at the end of design development.
We own the cost estimate?
That's what it said.
Okay. What does that mean? What does that mean?
We're going to get another one.
The next phase of our design process is called design development.
Yeah.
And when we're done with that phase, they're gonna take the drawings back to the estimator and say, okay, give us another estimate.
Right. What does the deal mean? Yeah.
It's already in our fee.
Oh, okay. All right. All right. So design development is 12 weeks from today?
Well, 12 weeks from the day that you authorize us to proceed with design development.
I make the motion that we authorize them to proceed with design development.
Are we able to do that? You there?
Wait a minute, let's get a second for that motion.
I'll second.
All right, now you can.
Okay, so are we there?
Are we where?
Are we at the point where we can authorize them to move forward with DD?
Or what's the alternative?
Well, further discussion. We know what all of our costs are going to be and all of that. We got them covered. I mean, that's the thing. We have our end covered.
We do, because there are things we can do. I mean, first of all, Jeff thinks we have it covered. This is the first time he has been that I've
that positive.
This positive. So
this is the first time I've seen a TPC.
All right. So and
we already know that we're gonna cut $100,000 off of the landscaping.
Right.
So
right.
we're really talking about 200,000.
Right. Right. Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
No, it's like concrete enough.
No, it's not.
But we do design development. This town needs a library. and wants a library and has been working towards a library for, you know, I've been working towards this library for 15 and a half. Yes, I know. Yes, you know, right? So the town wants this. They want us to move forward. We don't have enough. And I believe that if we have to stick to our guns and say, sorry, we're not going to add more. We're gonna, if anything,
keep a
we're
linoleum floor.
Just like we're gonna have linoleum floor, and we're gonna take our shoes off. We're gonna sweep it at the end of the day, and we're not, you know, we're just gonna, you know, we're gonna just be really thoughtful, and we're gonna be a bunch of cheap Yankees.
And we are gonna be very vigilant and working every step of the way to procure little pockets of money everywhere we go. Each one of us is going to be an ambassador for this library every time.
That's right. Right.
And
you know, yes. And I've seen people showing up and seeing what they can do.
Yep. So, Lauren.
Thank you. I hear what you are saying. I do want to say that the state is not going to give $5.6 million for a cheap Yankee building. Okay.
We don't.
I'm like Matt, concerned about linoleum in that lobby. You know, there are some things that we need to look at the wear, you know, the wear patterns and the durability of materials, and not cheap out in that way. So
okay.
All right. Okay.
Molly.
I think that that we really need to be cognizant of ways we could be saving money in the short term and spending more in the long term. Mm-hmm. And I think the roof is one area, this lobby is another area, and that we want to be spending smartly. And
and the installation is another area.
Exactly. Right. Where it would save us money long term to spend a little bit more money.
Yes.
By the way, along those lines, and this is actually one case where you're going to get something that performs better, but you're going to pay less. If anyone noticed on the alternates, the cost of slate shingles was actually less than the cost of hardy plank.
That's
so great. I would go slate shingles all day long. I mean, it's a 100-year material. You'll get
you got it.
5-year warranty on the material, but it should last you 100 years.
Yes. Okay.
Well, that's exciting.
Yeah. I mean, but it's still, but that's $100,000, right? Is that am I remembering correctly? I don't have that highlighted. And I just can't believe that it's going to cost $100,000 to put siding on.
You can't second guess the cost like that, Marianne.
Oh no. I mean, I just it's not that I don't think it's going to cost that much. I just am
hard to wrap around.
I just think it's nuts that's how much it costs.
There's going to be lots of nutsy numbers.
Anyway, there's a motion on the floor.
Okay.
Yes.
It's been said.
And it has been seconded.
The motion again was.
Could you read it, please, Penny?
Marianne made a motion to move forward into design and development, and Brad seconded.
Is there further discussion?
I have one clarification to add to that. In addition to making the motion for us to move ahead, we also have to set the budget, the construction budget, right? So what is the right number? You know, right now, Neil has us at 6.15 in his budget, but we were just talking about things that we might find we want to add to that. And I wouldn't say those things necessarily come out of the design contingency. Those are upgrades. So things like going to tile in the lobby versus linoleum, things like adding insulation to the roof if we find that there's a cost benefit to doing that.
So now we go through those options.
I'm sorry.
Which will then tell them what the money. So you want to take it.
So are we going through all those options tonight and deciding, or do we decide those during design and development?
I would say that you set the budget now based on the possibility that you may decide to go with some of those options. It doesn't mean we have to, and it doesn't mean, let's say we set the budget at 6.2. Right now, the estimate is 6.138. Neil rounded up to 6.15 in his budget. I would say you go a little further and you make it 6.2, which adds in the $50,000 for those couple of items that we talked about. Then as we get into this, we may find that we spend a little less on landscaping, or something doesn't cost as much as we thought it did, or we remove something that's in the estimate now. And so just because we're setting the budget at 6.2, it doesn't mean that we have to spend 6.2. But I would say for comfort, it would be better to set it at a number that we think is kind of right now not irresponsible, but the most that we think it should be, and then hope that we're doing better than that as we move forward. That would be my recommendation. Neil, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
I'm fine, Matt, one way or the other. Like I said, the town just needs to be comfortable with how those numbers translate to their share as well as the total project budget. And as long as they're comfortable and they understand that the ineligibles are forecasts now based on what we think the estimates are going to come in at, and there has to be an understanding that those numbers will change and may increase or decrease depending on the pricing that's obtained from the GCs. It's the only other thing I'd add, Matt.
Yeah.
There's no guarantee. This is the estimated best.
Right. Okay.
So what was Neil's number?
6.2? 6.2.
6.15.
6.15.
So another 500,000. An additional. So we want to vote on the first motion and then vote on the budget amount. Second.
Or make an amendment to the motion. How do we do this?
We can make an amendment to the motion so that we add the actual dollar amount cost estimate to it.
And what's the name of that budget? So it's just the construction budget?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so I want to make an amendment to my motion that we move into the design phase on
Design
development phase on August 1st, 2023, and we set the budget, the construction budget, at $6.2 million.
Yes.
The estimate.
The budget estimate at $6.2 million. Does that work now?
Yeah, I mean, it's your budget, right? That's the construction budget as referenced in the contract, but it's an estimate, right? That is the number that we have to hit or do better than.
50,000, yeah. $50,000 difference.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. All right.
Do I hear a second to the amendment?
Second.
All right, we will vote on the amendment first, which is setting the budget, the cost, construction cost at $6.2 million.
Antonella's aye.
Down the side.
Foster aye.
Pool aye.
Jake's aye. Martha aye.
Kaleo, aye. All right, now the amended motion to move ahead to the design development phase. Any more discussion?
It's Dominic. All right. Okay.
Dominic's in Australia.
All right.
Oh, nice.
That's the soccer team?
Oh, yeah, keep the soccer kids. Nice.
All right, get your pencils ready.
Okay. Okay.
All right.
Vote.
Antonella's aye.
Down the side.
Foster aye.
Pool aye.
Jake's aye. Moss aye.
Kaleo, aye. finally getting it alphabetical. All right, we are going into design development phase. So we have 12 weeks, which is August, September, October, which is Halloween. You're gonna have it for us for November 1st?
I have to look at our schedule. I mean, the design development is 3 months, and then pricing usually takes 2 weeks or so. So it'll be, early November. It'll be after Halloween. You won't get the estimate on Halloween.
Okay. Okay.
No trick or treats.
Yeah, right.
So Elaine, just to confirm, roughly estimated based on 6.2 million for construction and adjusting contingencies, that translates to about 8.55 million total project.
Thank you. And will you please send us the spreadsheets that you created tonight and showed us tonight?
Yep.
Thank you. Lauren, you have your hand up.
So Mary Ann has the ones that you saw, and then I will update them based on the discussions tonight to reflect the 8.55 and the 6.2 million in construction cost.
Great. Thank you. Lauren.
Thank you. I've mentioned this to a couple people, but I want to announce it to the entire group that I will be retiring as of October 27th. So I will not be here for the next estimate. I'm retiring. I am not going to be gone completely. I will be consulting with the agency for a period of time until Andrea can hire a new building consultant. So we haven't discussed exactly what my duties are going to look like. I don't know if I will be involved in this project or not, but I will certainly be involved in the design development process. If I can swing it at all, I am going to be at the groundbreaking and the opening of this library.
You're done, right? All right, if I drive to wherever you are, you up and drive you back here.
Congratulations to you.
Thank you.
We're gonna miss you, Lauren.
That's true.
Andrea is amazing, and she is more than capable of taking the reins. So, yeah.
So you mentioned that she's probably going to hire another building consultant. Will she be taking over on this project for you, or would that potential hire be taking over, or you don't know yet?
We don't know. She's going to be moving into the senior spot, the overall leader of the grant program, and she'll be hiring someone for her position. We do not know what that split is going to look like yet. It kind of depends on who we get and what their skill set is. So, and, I would not sob, bitter tears if they didn't want to keep me on for this project throughout. I wouldn't mind at all, but we'll see how that goes.
Can we put in a good word for that?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. All right. Wow, that's news.
I knew it was coming. I didn't know it was coming fall.
Dang.
I found out at the Greenfield Library opening, and I think I had a face of like, ooh.
Yeah.
Like, I'm very happy for Lauren.
Yes.
I'm not as happy for us.
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
All right.
So when's our next meeting? Yeah.
Can I ask that Matt and Dominic look at something? So I noticed in the estimate that the exterior insulation, so the 1.5 inches on the outside is 15,000, and the 3.5 on the inside is 8,000. So that's 23,000. And I was wondering if you could look at increasing the insulation, on the exterior walls, because I'm assuming that would then factor into how much PV we would need. And I would think the insulation would be a lot less expensive than the PV.
Yeah, we're gonna do energy analysis of the building using the energy model, and we're gonna do that to look at all of the insulation, the roof that we already talked about, and the walls as well. I mean, if there is a way to improve the energy performance of the building within the context of our budget, then we will do that.
Okay. Phew. So are you planning to have subcommittee meetings to work through anything this with the design, or is that a full committee process, or is that a MAP process?
That will definitely be the design subcommittee's responsibility. And we,
Right.
and that
No, let us go up by itself.
that subcommittee will report back to the full committee for decision making. So the subcommittee makes recommendations. They do the, in the weeds, what kind of insulation are we going to have in this wall kind of discussions. And then they recommend to the full committee, and the full committee makes the decision.
Laura, that's a perfect example of why you cannot retire yet. Your comment.
So moving forward, the design subcommittee, how often will you be meeting or need to meet, can you think of, before we have another committee meeting? Because the full committee, right?
I would think we start with one meeting before a full committee, maybe two meetings. I think part of it is, Matt, how fast they gear up and go into DD. And, you guys start working with your consultants now, big time.
Yeah, I need to reach out to our consultant team and put together a kind of 3-month look ahead for DD and set up a meeting schedule and sort of identify tasks for each of the meetings. Not knowing exactly when we were starting DD, we were kind of waiting until we got to this point. So I will do that, and we can start setting meeting dates. But I mean, generally speaking, I would say we can anticipate meeting on a roughly 2-week cadence with the subcommittee. And I mean, typically what we do is every 2 weeks with the subcommittee, and then once a month with the building committee. There's always the opportunity to have an additional committee meeting if there's something that comes up that requires more immediate attention or a vote. But I think on a kind of general cadence, I would assume bi-weekly for subcommittee and monthly for building committee.
So do you need 2 weeks before our next subcommittee to get your ducks in order?
So would that be the 16th, Matt, targeting?
Yeah, I think that's a reasonable target. Like I said, I want to reach out to all my consultants and make sure that makes sense. But why don't we set that date now? If we find that we need to push it a week, I can let you know. But let's do that.
And
if that works for everybody, the 16th.
At 12 o'clock?
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yes.
It seems to me like this mixed phase has a lot to do with interior stuff, and I'm wondering if Molly might want to be more involved in that, since she's so well versed in the insides of libraries. At least some of the meetings. Yeah, I mean, it definitely, I feel good about I don't care, I trust you guys figure out insulation and stuff like that. I do feel good about those kinds of things coming back to the whole committee, so that we all are still involved. When you get, I do have opinions about flooring more than I do on insulation. So, and perhaps.
If I could just mention that maybe it is time to create an interiors if we're calling them subcommittees or working groups, whatever we're calling them, I think that now might be a good time to form that subcommittee.
Although
it's important that the design working group not get too large and unwieldy. I'm not trying to exclude anyone, but if it becomes a cast of thousands, we'll never get any work done. So that's my opinion.
My only hesitation about establishing another subcommittee is this is a tiny project, and that feels a little bit
It seems tiny to you.
heavy-handed in terms of management. It's more meetings. I mean, I sort of feel like we can cover everything that we need to cover in a single meeting, and maybe what we do is we figure out ahead of time what the agenda is for that meeting, and you know, we have attendance based on the topics that are being addressed in that meeting, if that makes sense.
Yes, I agree. I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it possible for those agendas to be shared with the whole committee ahead of time?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, they will be posted because yeah.
Being posted on the website means I need to know when they're posted to be able to look.
I will send it to you. I will
And you
send it.
can subscribe.
I can?
Yes. You
Oh my
can
God.
subscribe and you'll get an email when a meeting is posted.
To this thing?
We're so high tech here.
Yes.
But-
Yes,
I'm gonna
Brad.
set it right now.
I have a comment. I have a personal comment. I think we all share this, but I only know it from me. Matt, I want to give you huge thanks for the redesign, the whole process. I like seeing the changes. I know it must have been a lot of work to do that. Neil, I really appreciate your shepherding of this too. All of you who are up there on the screen, you mean a lot. You've added a lot to this, so thank you.
I agree.
Yes.
We
Thanks,
all.
Brad. Thank you, Brad. I have to say, I was sweating it a little bit until Saturday.
I was sweating when
Is that when you got the estimate?
That's when we got the estimate, Saturday morning.
Okay, so the 16th is a subcommittee meeting. And then you will meet again on the 30th. So shall we set a full building committee meeting for the following Tuesday?
September.
It is September.
September 5th, right after Labor Day.
Yes, September 5th. September 5th for a full building committee meeting?
I don't think I'll be there. Unless, I don't know if my flight is. I fly home on it.
We could do a different day of the week.
Is the 6th?
It's fine.
Does the
6
6th?
is a Friday. Yeah.
A Wednesday?
No,
Wednesday. 6th is Wednesday.
In September.
Yeah,
September.
that's September.
Yeah, September.
Yeah.
6th is Wednesday.
I think you're looking
Not
at,
according to lines?
because you're looking at October, look up higher.
Oh.
So Matt and Lauren and Neil and Barbara and Roger and everybody in the room, could you do Wednesday, September 6th?
Are you, say that again? Wednesday, September 6th?
Wednesday, September 6th at 7 p.m. for a library building committee, a full committee meeting.
I can do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're also
Yeah.
flexible.
Neil,
What was the date, please?
September 6th.
And you, Mom?
I will have to not go to a work thing. But it's okay.
Yeah, should be fine.
Roger, you're okay? Okay. Wednesday, September 6th at 7 p.m. And that's when you're going to show us all wonderful things you have discussed.
And that gives them an extra day to work on it too, because Monday is a holiday.
Right.
Yeah.
And we'll try to meet here again.
Yeah.
Yes.
Remember to put it on their meeting here. The first time realized who they are. So we're gonna, I have a feeling we're gonna meet here in person, and we're fine with having you guys be on Zoom, but you're welcome to join us in person anytime you want to drive up to Shutesbury. And you want to do that before, January,
November.
You probably drove out in the winter last time now. Of course you did. Yes, okay.
Okay. And you'll have the design subcommittee agendas up so that we can see it and potentially.
Yeah, so you'll let us know what we're gonna talk about at that first meeting.
Yeah.
Okay, great, all right. Oh, excellent.
Okay, thank you all, but let's see, now we need to go, we know where we're heading. So now we need to hear, is there any updates from liaisons that we would like to hear from?
Well, that have to do with the new library. I know Marianne is doing a little fundraiser for programs, which is going well. But
Yes.
Is separate. Can't remember if we mentioned last time that we're organizing a turkey trot, which is a race.
A race.
A 5K runner. A 5K race the Sunday before Thanksgiving.
It's
and
a very
these are things that people like to do.
Yeah, it's very traditional to do around Thanksgiving. And you can also walk, and the closest one to us here is in Holyoke.
Yeah.
And it is very well attended every year, but that is on the Saturday after Thanksgiving.
So this
and therefore we will be the only one before Thanksgiving. So anyone who's interested in a run walk, 5K.
And you might take home a turkey.
Prizes are a turkey. And you can get sponsorship, so people can sponsor your walk.
You could turkey-a-thon.
A turkey-a-thon.
And what is the name of it? It's the
Roadtown Turkey Trot.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Let's let these guys go.
Oh, let's let these guys go. You guys don't get to.
Yeah, so I'll make a motion that we adjourn the meeting.
No. This is part of the meeting. They can leave because it has nothing to do with them.
Right.
This is fundraising, and you go enjoy your evenings.
Okay.
Thank
you. Unless you want to stay.
I'm happy to say goodnight.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Good work.
Good night.
Thanks, everybody. Okay. So we still have to leave the meeting up.
We'll keep the meeting up, definitely.
Okay.
We'll keep the meeting up.
Okay.
Okay, so we have the turkey trot.
Yeah.
And we will be doing lots of other things too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Gonna be
In
doing.
fact, if you want a particular tree planted on the site, Elaine, you can pay a fee and have that tree planted.
Thank you. We are also, we have spoken to folks in Senator Markey's office and have had very wonderful conversations with Jim McGovern, and he directed us to rural development planning grants. Unfortunately, the construction grant, which had to be in by the end of July, was just too cumbersome because we had to hire consultants for them to oversee and everything, but that was just way too much. But they do have a facilities and what's it called, Mariana?
It's like it's a facilities
grant.
Right.
And so we weren't ready for it yet because you needed to have every single item, almost a bill of sale for what you were buying, but it's the furniture, it's the computers, it's the big screen TV, it's all of that kind of stuff. All the ineligible things, yes, and some of the eligible ones too. And we can get 15% of that cost.
And can we you missed this last deadline, but there must be more.
There's in
Yeah.
next every year.
Right,
Every
because
year.
We'll be aligned better for next year.
We have
Yes.
to have actual purchase orders.
Yes,
So like when we're
For the
choosing
year
the
after.
shelving, that's where I'm
Yeah.
hoping you're gonna help. me with
yeah,
all
and,
that.
and,
Yeah.
Is this the kind of
Yeah.
grant that is effectively a reimbursement? A lot of grants I deal with,
No.
you have to have so much detail, you have to spend the money before they'll give you that.
I'm not sure, but, Jim McGovern is going to help shepherd through.
Okay.
So if it's only $15,000, it's $15,000.
We'll take it.
So we'll take it. Yep. And there were about 3 or 4 other things that were suggested by Marky's folks that I just haven't gotten around to.
Like, I think there's a green communities grant or
Yep.
something like that, that will, I think, basically pay for the EV chargers.
Yep.
Like, it's
Yeah.
almost 100%.
And
of
we
EV
do,
chargers.
yeah, we are a green community.
We are,
Yeah.
So we can do that.
right.
Yeah.
And then Congressman McGovern nominated me for the 2024, I've only been nominated. The 2024 IMLS, that's the Institute for Museum and Library Services, National Medal for Museum and Library Services.
Right.
Congratulations.
So, I mean,
Right?
5 days ago. And so it means that I have to fill out a ginormous grant application.
Do you get money?
I'm just the cash
kudos?
awards. There are 15 in the country. And 15 libraries, 15 museums.
I knew they wanted to nominate something for this district.
Right. And well, I think Elaine might have had something to do with it. I mean, you can say, is there an award you can nominate? But I think he's just looking
He's
for
looking for anything
anything
for us.
that,
That's awesome.
and so one of the things that I think is in our favor is one of the things you have to write about is how you responded to the pandemic. And I actually think for a town this size, I did really, I don't usually say I did a good job.
You did a great job.
I did a good job. You
Did a
know,
great
I mean,
job.
even my kids said I did a good job.
And getting that
Yeah.
and actually even being nominated for it and then receiving it gives you leverage to ask.
But
for
remember, there are
more money.
15 of these in the entire country.
But,
So-
but even
Yeah.
being
That
nominated.
is a different grant
Right.
application.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
And so.
And you know, it was an honor just to get the email. So
Yeah.
yes,
Great.
yes, I haven't even told the trustees because I haven't had, you know.
A minute?
A minute. So anyway, and I mean, so there's, you know, it's
And there are foundations,
right,
there are places,
yeah,
but
Yeah.
The community foundation just put out their grant
Yeah,
thing. I'm not sure. I don't think we fit into it as
No.
easily, but
yeah, the
the
community
community
foundation.
foundation.
This particular one doesn't, but are we adjourned?
No,
we're still, okay,
okay.
okay, all right. But
I think
too, there's not anything new. I mean, I told you that I met with the Army Corps of Engineers. Becky also met with the Army Corps of Engineers. And now it's in their hands. So we discussed that at the last meeting and we haven't heard from them since. And so they have their federal procurement process is really arduous and they have to come up with the scope of services and then get it funded in their next fiscal year, which starts in October. And then they have to hire an LSP, like we had hired an LSP. And then that LSP will then, you know, continue the work and work through, it's called the Massachusetts Contingency Plan through DEP. They'll work through that and come up with a permanent solution for that gasoline back there. So, and yeah, so that's good. It's a little funny, like I find myself think like what I'm not doing anything, you know, but it's because I'll adjust. There'll be other things to do. Yes. So
Don't
yeah.
worry, Mary.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
okay.
Yeah.
Is there any other subcommittee
April turn in the report to the.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Could I get a copy of that?
Yes, yes. Yeah, so April Jarofsky from Fuss and O'Neill was the wetland scientist who supervised the 2 little wetland restorations that we did. Penny also supervised it. And we did it, I was out of state when we did it, and but it's amazing that it all happened. And so April had to submit a report to the Conservation Commission, and that has been submitted. So, and it's just a report. We dug this, we did this. It's not anything that, I mean, she did determine the wetland line that was missing, but my feeling is that wetland line is so far.
Still good to know.
Yeah, it's still good to know, but it
won't affect this project.
That's right.
Is that the undefined thing that Miriam has been trying to make a big deal of?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes. So it is now defined. Great.
Great.
The woman who had comments at the beginning.
Amanda,
I could not understand what she was saying. Could someone clarify?
She was talking about because of climate change and soil stability, and apparently there was a study done maybe years ago at the site, and it was recommended, I think, in the study that they would dig the footing, and then they put, I think, a gravel layer in there that would be compacted to then properly support the footing. And then there were some other comments that I didn't catch all of that. That seemed to be the main one. She was, and her question was, is that something that the architects were taking? Oh, no, it was that something that was in the S?
What did you say?
The answer is no. Wasn't on the document.
Is there like a French drain or something around the?
Well, it will be, and then wasn't on the document.
Okay.
Yeah, it's only a 4-foot foundation. So, slab on, we're probably gonna have a fine.
So we did a geotechnical survey. We did a geotechnical survey as part of the last process. I think they
13
have,
years ago.
yeah, 13 years ago. Yeah,
The designers have that.
they have it. It's in, well, anyway, they have it, but anyway, I'll check in with them about that. We may have to do geotechnical survey as part of that. It's part of Neil's list of stuff that isn't done yet. So I've been meaning to, well, I was waiting for this. It's in the budget. So now I'll email him and say, I mean, they have to tell us what, I can't say what needs to be done for the geotechnical survey. They have to tell us, and then we hire someone and do it. I can do that part. That's easy. And we'll have to get 3 proposals, and then, but so anyway, they might be waiting for that information.
I mean, I think it does make sense given the recent weather to make contingencies for large rainstorms in the future.
Right. We should assume,
But again, a short foundation doesn't require all the drainage required.
I'm glad we don't have a fire suppression pipe in the basement that can burst.
Yeah. Okay, anything else? Any other subcommittee? All right, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Do I hear a second? Okay. Discussion?
no. It's Millis eye.
Films.
Cool eye.
Jake side, Moss side.
Puleo eye.
That finger's getting pretty quick.
It's gonna end the meeting.
Franklin.